On Saturday evening, Speaker McCarthy announced on Capitol Hill that a deal on the debt ceiling had been reached with the White House. After nearly a 4-month standoff between him and the president, the U.S. had hit its debt limit in January this year, but it was not expected to default until late next week. This is not the first time in American history that a Speaker of the House and the president had a feud over the debt ceiling. But the most bizarre debt ceiling crisis occurred in 1995, when Republicans took control of both chambers of Congress and had a big feud with President Clinton over the federal budget and the debt ceiling. Republicans in Congress had retaliated against the president over the federal budget because Clinton had vetoed most bills that Republicans passed in Congress with their huge majorities. And because of this feud between House Republicans, Senate Republicans, and the president, there was a government shutdown. 2 of them. One lasted a few days, and then the other one dragged on for months, in which Gingrich finally folded, in which many House Republicans viewed as a weak move. In this video, we are going to be discussing this matter, the battle over the debt ceiling, 1995. In the 1994 midterm elections, Republicans gained control of both chambers of Congress. And with Republicans' wins in the House, they ended 40 years of Democratic control in the House of Representatives. They gained 50 seats in the House and 9 seats in the Senate. The man at the center of the Republicans' victory in 1994 was a Georgia congressman named Newt Gingrich. Back in the late 80s, Gingrich gained national attention for going into attack mode against the Democrats.
Doing whatever they want without any regard for the American people, and that they are cheerfully spending their children and their grandchildren's money.
Feeling the time was right to end 40 years of Democratic rule in the House, Gingrich summoned fellow Republican congressmen and women and Republican candidates to the front of the Capitol Hill. There he announced the Contract with America. The Contract with America was a legislative agenda made by Gingrich, in which he wrote out what Republicans will do in the first 100 days of Republican control in the House. By the time Republicans had gained control of both chambers of Congress and Gingrich getting control of the Speaker's gavel in January 1995, Republicans had already began their work for the American people. But throughout much of 1995, Clinton and his allies in Congress had pretty much stalled much of Gingrich's contract with America. But in fall of 1995, focus then began to shift on passing the federal budget. This included the debt ceiling. For Gingrich and his allies, this was their moment to dig in to Democrats' heels.
Republican leaders, however, say they will not send the president the legislation he wants.
No, we will not send a clean bill.
Why?
Because we want the president to sit down and negotiate.
Newt Gingrich thought that he would show down Bill Clinton and that Bill Clinton would fold. But however, Bill Clinton did not fold. And because of that, there was a government shutdown.
Federal workers across the nation will be off work at midnight unless some kind of compromise is reached. At this point, however, that doesn't appear likely.
Americans, however, didn't like this.
Really a bad time for this to be happening. I blame all of them.
It's like we couldn't handle our own business. As the shutdown dragged on, becoming the longest in American history at that point, Gingrich finally agreed to compromise, which infuriated many people in his conference who felt that he was giving in. After the bitterness of the government shutdown, President Clinton and House Republicans worked together to pass major and sometimes controversial new legislation into law. In 1996, a lot of legislating got done, actually, where Democrats and Republicans were able to work to get major things done. And sometimes people may have trouble with it, like when Republicans passed a bill to slash some welfare programs. Bill Clinton signed that into law. And Republicans passed the Defense of Marriage Act, which banned the federal government from recognizing same-sex marriage. The kind of conservative ideology that infuriated some liberal Democrats, but helped Bill Clinton in a way to get reelected in 1996. The kind of stuff that had gotten done in divided government that we haven't seen in divided government in our present. In 2011, when Republicans took control of the House, that didn't happen between the White House with President Obama and Speaker John Boehner, though they were able to make a compromise with federal budgets and stuff. In 2019, when Democrats took control of the House, nothing pretty much big happened because Speaker Pelosi had always gotten into big fights with President Trump. And this big debt ceiling crisis that has finally been solved yesterday evening between the White House, President Biden, and Speaker McCarthy. I mean, the whole message of divided government is just to, get things done. If that doesn't happen, the people can have a referendum on this. Make their choices about how they would solve the government's problems. This now concludes this very long video about the 1994 federal budget and debt ceiling crisis. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
The yeas are 258. The nays are 176. The resolution is agreed to. Very happy with the decision. We think it was best for the House Republican Party. I spent 40 years working since I was 15 to try to make sure that freedom survived against the Soviet Empire, to try to help elect Ronald Reagan, and to try to create a Republican majority in the House. And having led the party to 3 consecutive victories in terms of having a majority in the House, the only time in 70 years we've done that.
Accept your nomination to lead our party once again to the presidency of the United States. It means you'll have a president who will reduce taxes 15% across the board for every taxpayer in America, who will end the IRS as we know it. Because if I win, the lives of violent